Congressman, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. Can you paint me a bit of a picture as to what you see happening next? We are going to see this effort, we think, in the Senate to pass the bill that the House passed yesterday fail. Then what happens?
Well, then I think the Senate has to decide whether they're going to amend it and send it back to us, or we're going to have to decide in the House whether or not we're going to put something on the floor that can pass and go to the Senate and pass the Senate. My view is we ought to pass the agreement that we all thought had been agreed to by all parties, including the President of the United States, pass that again and send it down to him and convince him that, look, you're going to have this fight about the wall. We understand maybe tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, but let's open the government. Let's be rational. Let's follow what we said we were going to do some 72 hours ago until the president got angry or was bullied into sort of beating his chest and following through on his threat to shut down the government. Shutting down the government is an irrational act, an example of failure, not success. And clearly, I don't think he's going to get his way that way. He's simply going to be looked upon by the American people as, in effect, having a tantrum and making the rest of America pay for it.
But the last few shutdowns we've had have been short-lived because there was an effort to get to some sort of a compromise. In many cases, it came very shortly after the shutdown. This isn't one of those situations. It's not like the two sides on this are close. Obviously, after January 2nd, when you guys are in charge in the House, things will be different. But could there be a shutdown that doesn't stop for a week or longer?
Well, you know, there were 10 shutdowns in the 80s and 90s prior to 1994. They averaged 2 days. In other words, 2 days for each one of the 10 average. There was one for 3 days, a couple for 1 day. And they were because you were still trying to get to an agreement. And so you sort of slipped over into a shutdown. But they were very short. And then, of course, Newt Gingrich came to town and elected in 94. And then 95 and 96, the end of 95, beginning of 96, we had a 26-day shutdown, 2 shutdowns over Christmas. And then for the next 17 years, there were no shutdowns. The Republicans learned that did not go very well with the American public, and they decided that was not good politics. And unfortunately, when they came just a few years ago and wanted to see if they could repeal the Affordable Care Act, thinking maybe Obama would sign a bill like that, which was irrational and unreasonable, we shut down the government again for 16 days. But you're right. Most shutdowns have been for short times where we tried to get an agreement. I certainly hope, A, that we don't shut down, that we reach agreement by tonight. I don't think that's likely, but I would hope that would happen. And I would hope that we would not shut down the government for any long period of time. We ought to come to grips with the fact that we have agreement on about 98%. I said 96% last night, but we agree on 6 of the 7 bills entirely. Mm-hmm. We agree on almost all, except the wall, of the 7th bill. This is a 7-bill package. So it's amazing that we agree on 96, 97% of the bills, including all that is included in the Homeland Security bill for border security, and we can't reach, we can't come to closure.
You are prepared, as Democrats, to extend the existing funding, to continue the existing funding on border security, $1.6 billion, I think it might be.
Yes.
Is there anything that you can get out of this that'll make you sign on to a bigger border wall bill? In other words, whether it's $5 billion or something close to that, is there something that you can tell me that Republicans can, or that Democrats can be offered by the president that makes it worth settling this?
Ellie, you will not be surprised that I don't want to negotiate on camera, if you will. But having said that, what we ought to do is open up the government. We're going to be in charge in just a few days. And we're going to have to talk to the president because the president's going to still be there. We understand that. and we're going to have to get something done. But as you recall, we recommended doing a CR for the entire year for the Department of Homeland Security, which would not put border security at risk at all. They're going to shut down the Department of Homeland Security if we can't get an agreement, as well as other agencies. Now, some of those employees at the border and other places are critical employees. They won't be laid off. But much of Homeland Security's civilian personnel may well be laid off, and that won't be helpful. So I'm not going to negotiate on TV,
sure.
But your viewers need to understand that these are not Democratic bills. None of these 7 are our bills. They're Republican bills. We have agreed to all of the bills as they now stand. The president wants to add the wall on. But we have agreed on, so we've agreed 100% on the bills that have been passed out of the Congress of the United States and passed out of committee. And here we are. On the verge of shutting down government on one thing. And that's just not reasonable in a democratic process.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.